Greetings everyone. Welcome to Codeleaks. This is Mariam Anwar. Before getting into the video, I would like you to visit our website. It contains quite helpful stuff regarding different software technologies like HTML, CSS, Python, JavaScript, and many more.
In this video, we will learn the differences between Tailwind and Bootstrap. We will look which framework is better to use while we are designing our website. But before starting, we should know what is CSS. CSS is the language for describing the presentation of web pages, including colors, layout, and fonts. And what actually Tailwind and Bootstraps are, they are the frameworks of CSS, which allows us to use more functionalities with less code. So now let's start with Bootstrap. Bootstrap was released in 2011, that is 9 years ago, and it gained popularity in a very short time. It is still one of the smartest framework of CSS. What should we know very first is Bootstrap is a component-based framework. What component-based library do for us is we save time. That is, they contain a pre-made component set that is used to design a typical website very quickly. Also, it is very easy to learn. One with the CSS knowledge can easily work with the Bootstrap. In this way, we can style our website with the component classes available with the Bootstrap. Now, the other way to style our website that CSS provides is utility libraries. What actually happens is, unlike Bootstrap, Tailwind does not give us automatically pre-styled components like buttons, cards, and so on. The first release of Tailwind CSS came in 2017. And now, as we know, it is a utility-first CSS framework. So, actually it helps us with the high customization. What happens is, we use very less CSS code, not zero, but bunch of utility classes combined with our own styles to get our final result. All those classes are not the ready-made component just like Bootstrap. They are unlike Bootstrap. We can build our own custom components with the utility classes. Tailwind CSS is flexible just because it provides high customization. And as I mentioned before, we do not need to write a lot of CSS code. We can create the classes that are utility classes from the HTML elements actually. So now let's discuss three important features in regards of Bootstrap versus Tailwind. First is performance. If we talk about the space that will be occupied by a Bootstrap file or a Tailwind file, then you can understand this concept. While having Bootstrap in our code, we have to incorporate 4 main files extra, and that requires a very heavy space, that is about like 300 KBs. But in Tailwind, we just need the style sheet to get our task done, and it actually occupies like 30 KBs of the space. You can see it is a big difference. If we talk about the build time, then it is also giving us a major difference. While having Bootstrap in the code, we will be having overhead code, and that overhead code actually delays the build time and it becomes like 160 seconds. While if we work with the Tailwind, it has utility libraries that are actually built in, and it shortens the time of build, that is about 10 to 8 seconds. But when it comes to the community of Bootstrap versus Tailwind, then we know Bootstrap is an old technology and it was released about 9 years ago. What actually happens is Tailwind is recently introduced in the market, and in this technology market there is still a lot of room for Tailwind to have a strong community of developers and tools. But in this regard, Bootstrap is rich. It is having largest communities of millions and millions of developers with many forums and many tools. Now the main question is which one we should be picking and why, either Bootstrap or Tailwind. So for this, we will be discussing few examples of Bootstrap and Tailwind CSS. we will be building buttons, and you will get the difference, that what kind of difference we will be getting in our development, in our coding, while styling our websites. So let's get started with the examples now. So in the example, I have already written my HTML code, and now this is the Bootstrap documentation. You can get all the help from here if you want. What I want from here is the reference link of CSS. So I'm just copying the link from here, pasting it in my HTML code, and now I'm gonna make a Bootstrap button. What I will do, you can see on the screen, in the Bootstrap documentation, in the components we have buttons, and these buttons are already made. They have component classes. So what I did is, I have chosen the primary button and I have pasted the code. Okay. Save your code, and then you can see in the output we have got the same button as the primary one. Now we will go with the danger button, and in the danger button you can see it was red, and we just used the component class of CSS by Bootstrap, and we have got the result. Now I will start with the Tailwind side. In the Tailwind we have documentation as well, and it is a very interesting and nice documentation. You can get help from here. So what I'm gonna do right now is, I'm gonna take the reference link of CDN. This is the way where you can use CDN to use Tailwind in your HTML code. Okay, writing my code. What I'm going right now is, you can see on the screen, I am providing the utility classes. Okay, I have provided the background as yellow, and on hover, when I move my mouse cursor over the button, it will turn to green. Okay, the intensity of the color we can also specify, as I have specified here with the yellow 500 and for the green 300. And next step, I have specified the color for the text. The font I have set is bold, and in last I have provided the dimensions with the rounded button. And now typing the title for the button, that is Codeleaks. Save your code and let's run it. Okay, you can see on the screen the output is just as we wanted. Now I'm going to create one more Tailwind button with some changes, so that you can understand how we will work with the utility classes. Here I am going to change the yellow color to the purple, and the hover as pink, and setting the intensity. This time I am going to set my text as italic. The dimensions I have changed, and I have removed the rounded. Okay, the output is different from the previous one. You must have understood how the Tailwind is different from Bootstrap. If we wanted to add the hover and the focus and such attributes in the Bootstrap, then we must have to create new classes, new unique classes for this purpose. But in the Tailwind, you just have to add the utility classes in the same code. Okay, now after examples, which one should you use then? Let's take an overview. When it comes to Bootstrap, that is component framework, there are other component frameworks as well, just like Foundation. So what Bootstrap gives is, it gives everything pre-styled. You mainly use classes, they give you CSS classes. And in the case of Tailwind, there are utility CSS classes. You build your layout yourself. So one by one, I will be giving an overview of pros and cons of both the frameworks. First is like fast development. It provides fast development. In comparison of the style sheets we make in CSS, it is faster because we have components that are already built. Next, we do not need any expertise. This is very true because if you have CSS knowledge, if you know the basics, then you can easily go with the Bootstrap. Okay, now there comes one con. This is less control or no control. Why? Because we cannot customize things on your own. We can only use the components that are already made in the Bootstrap, and we will be using them in our code. Next step, there is overhead code. Okay, why there is overhead code? Let me tell you. If you import Bootstrap library for button, you can use only the button component, but you haven't used the other components like cards, alerts, and many more. So there is overhead code because of the libraries you import in Bootstrap. Next step, provide same look to all the websites. Obviously, when the components are already made and we cannot even customize them, then every website will be looking the same if we use Bootstrap. Now, come to Tailwind. Okay, it provides the faster development. Because Tailwind contains more classes than Bootstrap, but not that much code. That's why it is faster than Bootstrap. As we have mentioned before, the build time is also less. That was like 8 to 10 seconds in comparison of Bootstrap. Next step, also there is no expertise needed. You just go to the documentation, you learn the classes, you learn the basics of CSS, Bootstrap, and you are good to go with the Tailwind. Okay, it provides control to a limit because the utility classes are already made. We use them, but we cannot make classes of our own. So it provides less control but not less than Bootstrap. We have more control in Tailwind than Bootstrap because it provides high customization as you have seen in the example. Next up we have overhead code. Obviously there is overhead code but less than Bootstrap. I have mentioned it before in the performance. It just needs a style sheet to run the code. So finally it's time for the final verdict. What is the final verdict? What frame should we choose in our styling? It depends upon your level of CSS knowledge. How much knowledge of CSS you have. If you are a pro in CSS or not. This thing will decide what kind of framework you are gonna choose. Next, the kind of project you are choosing. What kind of project it is? Is it for your company? Is it your own brand or your own style? What kind of style do you want in your website? What kind of project? What domain? It all depends upon this. Next up, the time you have. How much time do you have? Are you with the enough time to deal with the CSS? Or are you running short of time and you are going to choose Tailwind over Bootstrap? This depends upon your time limit. Next, your personal preferences. Do you want your work to be quick as possible? You know CSS but style something on your own? It really depends upon your preferences. If you want to be as quick as possible in styling your website, you might be using Bootstrap. But what if you know CSS well, but you want to style something on your own, then you are good to go with Tailwind. So, these are the factors that will be deciding what framework you would be choosing, either Tailwind or Bootstrap.
Okay, so that's all for today's topic. For more details, you can visit our website and YouTube channel. The link is mentioned in the description box below. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe and share. And yes, press the bell icon for latest updates. If you have any query, feel free to ask in the comment section below. Thank you.